I'm Fletcher Rhoden, and this is Quotes and Quips. Today, words and wisdom from Thomas Edison. Quotes and Quips is brought to you by FletcherRhoden.com, my personal website where you can find links to things like my Amazon.com author page. That's where you can buy my books in a variety of formats: paperback, Kindle, audiobook format. There's also a link to my Spotify artists page where you can download my music in its various subgenres. I've got new music for 2024. Now you can download my music at any of your favorite download sites up and down the internet. And at my website, there's free music that you can get there exclusively. So check it out. Okay, well, today's quote, a very well-known quote from Thomas Edison, a very well-known inventor. And he gives us this: genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Okay, well, where do we begin here? Edison had a genius and certainly worked hard. And, you know, I like to say that this show is brought to you by my website, FletcherRhoden.com. But really, in point of fact, truly, all of this is brought to you by Thomas Edison. So there's really no extricating Edison from the place that he holds in the pantheon of human accomplishment. Everything was different after Edison. Everything. And everything that happened after Edison has to go through Edison. Now that's not to say that, you know, how much of that 99% of perspiration was done by Nikola Tesla. One has to ask oneself, how much of that perspiration was really Thomas Edison's perspiration? One has to ask oneself. How much of that 1% of inspiration was truly Thomas Edison's? One has to ask oneself. But either way, the guy certainly was qualified, and he gives us this quote: dubious though its origins may be, genius. And also, the guy starts just by proclaiming his own genius. Because, I mean, basically that's what he's saying. They're not saying, you know, let's talk about abstract notions, shall we? And then among them is genius. You know, he's clearly speaking of himself. So he might as well have just said my genius at the top of this. And it reeks of hubris. But anyway, genius, the guy says, is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. So what he's getting at, once you cut through all the Tesla stuff and the, you know, egotism of it all, is that very little of what anybody accomplishes is inspiration. That's just the start of anything. We all have good ideas. How many times have you thought of a thing and then it's either just been invented or it will be invented in a few years? You find out a few years later, oh, someone else came up with it. Well, that's because inspiration is only 1%. And anybody can be inspired. It's the doing. It's the doing of it, which is the 99% part. So Edison, like a lot of people I've quoted, and like a lot of quotes I've read, it's basically about the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. It's about, you know, ain't nothing to it but to do it. That's the ethos that he's reflecting. And it's a very American, 20th century, just get her done type ethos, you know. And that's what he's getting at. He's meant to inspire you and say, well, if you're only inspired 1% of your life, then that's about as much as even a genius can expect. I'm not sure that's true, but I think the equation still works out, because for every 1 percentile of inspiration, you're going to have to come up with 99% or so of the work. And that's what most people just won't do. They won't, or they can't. I mean, I had a great idea last night. Now I came up with a great song, and now I can't barely remember it. Or, I had a great idea, but I got to go to work. I got kids to raise. I got a family. My wife is grumpy with me. I can't be walking around thinking about big, lofty things like ideas or notions or projects or whatever. My life doesn't allow for it. It's hard to do the rest of the 99%. Inspiration does come kind of easily. In fact, it comes with no effort at all. That's why they call it inspiration. That's the external part that just pops into your head. Or maybe it comes from inside, but it's generally inspired by something. It's inspiration. So part of it is some kind of either a lucky moment or something you see that touches off something else, or a kind of inspiration is a lot like the mind or love or empathy or God or other things that cannot be put on a laboratory table and sliced open and demonstrated how it functions to an academy or in a museum. Sorry, Mr. Gervais. There are so many things in life that you just can't quantify like that. You just can't prove it. And inspiration is one of them. Just ask Thomas Edison, who invented even more things than you did. If it hadn't been for Thomas Edison, there wouldn't have been a The Office, UK or US. So, but he can tell you that a full 1%, and believe me, if I had 1% of your money, I'd consider it a lot of money. So 1% of that is inspiration. So inspiration must surely exist, even though you can't prove it. Can you say, well, yeah, The Office proves that inspiration exists. Does it? I mean, maybe a thought entered your mind. It was an electrical impulse, as you have countless of these a day. Countless of them. I don't even know how many electrical impulses or thoughts, or some of them are instinctive. A lot of it is mechanical in your body, or you don't have to think to make your heart beat. You don't have to think to make your lungs work. Those happen automatically. And then in your brain you have other things that are thoughts, and you have emotions, and you have a lot of things. How many of these things occur every day? I cannot even speculate. Let's just say tons and tons and tons of them. So, but most of them cannot ever be weighed or measured. Can a thought be weighed or measured? Well, is a thought inspired? Is it inspiration? Or is it just a thought? Is every thought inspired? Is it, if it's derived from something else, isn't it just a stolen idea? I'm not saying The Office is stolen, but it's derivative of other sitcoms, of other workplace sitcoms. It didn't invent the workplace sitcom, and it didn't invent the mockumentary. So, is it inspired or just following the pack, following the trend? Where's the inspiration there? But inspiration does exist. And it's 1% of genius, according to Thomas Edison. Sorry to pick on you, Mr. Gervais. I hope I'm not ruining your career too badly. Anyway, next week I won't pick on you, I promise. I'll be here Monday at noon, as I am every Monday at noon, right here on this YouTube channel. I leave the reruns up so you can always check them out and share them with your friends. You can subscribe to the channel. I have another show called Tracking the Lone Wolf from 2023. They're all still up, and they'll be there at their own channel called Tracking the Lone Wolf. So you can watch that and check out my music and my books and my website and come back here for another show next week. Until then, bye, Mary.